It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by AgileDad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. All right, so I continue to receive questions from folks about the different types of Scrum certifications, whether it's entry-level certifications, regular certifications, mid-tier certifications, advanced certifications. How do they all lay out, and how does it all fall together or come together, and how do I know which certifications to get? Now, I want to preface that I'm going to try to remain as open as possible to discussing all the different types of certifications, and which ones might be more applicable to whom and when. Now, this is coming from someone. So I am one of just under 300 certified Scrum trainers in the world. So that's obviously Scrum Alliance, and that's a very big deal. I am a SAFe SPC, so I have a SAFe certification that allows me to teach as well, all the scaled Agile framework. And I'm also a Stable Institute certified stable trainer. So each of those afford different levels of certification. I also have some IC Agile certification courses I can teach. The point I'm trying to make is I've kind of dove in headfirst into many of these different certification bodies. And what I can tell you is that they're not one size fits all. It really depends on what you're looking for. Even organizations like Scrum.org and at Scrum at Scale, they offer valuable certifications. So the question is, how do I know what's right for me? And the answer is, there's not a single threaded answer. And I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but it's just absolutely true. Without bias, I have to say that you have to approach certification from a few different angles. So the first question is, what do you hope to get out of the certification? Now, we also teach PMI, traditional certifications. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because now, even in a traditional PMP, Project Management Professional certification, it includes a majority of the content that revolves around Agile project management. So even the traditional PMP is starting to embrace some parts of Agile. So if you're working in an organization that's government or very highly regulated or somewhere in the beltway or in the government sector or high ranking banking sectors where there's heavy governance, they may require you to have the PMP, because the PMP does work kind of a bridge to talk about going from traditional project management to Agile project management. And especially now with the inclusion of all of the different Agile principles in the PMP, it's a good idea to have it. So my advice in general with regard to traditional project management certifications, including the PMP, is the further towards the East Coast you live, the more you'll probably need it. The further towards the West Coast you live, the more you probably won't. And that's US specific, by the way, when I'm saying East Coast and West Coast. It's one of those things where I find that organizations who are asking for it are asking for it because they want to make sure you have a clear understanding so you can help them solve complex problems that they've gotten themselves into, right? Okay, let's jump to the next certification. The next certification I want to talk about are Scrum.org certifications. I've met Dave West on multiple occasions. He's been on a podcast. I love him to pieces. And Ken was my trainer and mentor, Ken Schwaber. So what I can tell you is their offering is incredibly valuable and powerful. It has, now I am not a professional Scrum trainer. I cannot offer those classes, but what I can tell you is if you're looking for a very detailed approach to handle software delivery issues or projects, if you're looking for something that's very detailed, very specific, very software centric, very project software centric, I need to deliver these things in a very specific way, Scrum.org is your jam. It doesn't give you as much of the flexibility as, let's just say, some of the Scrum Alliance classes have, where they teach you about handling situations outside of software, but it definitely has its place. Which leads me to the third one, since I already brought it up. Let's talk about the Scrum Alliance certifications. Now, what I can tell you is both Scrum.org and Scrum Alliance have what's called tiered or leveled certifications, where you have an entry-level cert. In Scrum Alliance, for example, you have the role-specific ones that are Certified Scrum Master and Certified Scrum Product Owner. Then they have a second tier, which is the advanced certified Scrum Master or certified Scrum product owner. And then they have a third tier, which is a certified Scrum practitioner or professional with emphasis on Scrum Master or product owner accordingly. What I can tell you is this: each one of those tiers prepares you to be at a different place in your career. Now, I know that, for example, in scrum.org, they have PSM1, PSM2, PSM3, so they have something very similar as far as the tiered approach is concerned. I think the key here is to determine where you are in your career journey, which certification is going to make a difference. Now, the thing that's going to be the key differentiator is that there are a dime a dozen certified Scrum Masters. There are thousands of them, right? So CSM, while it's a perfect certification, is not going to be the one that's going to land you the job of your dreams. What you have to realize is that that certification is just preparatory for you to receive the advanced certification, which is the one that's going to separate you from everybody else and allow you to get that better position. It just makes sense. There's a small fraction of the people who have the CSM that also have the ACSM. And then there's an even smaller fraction that take it all the way to the third level. Then there are all the supporting certifications that go around it for certified Scrum developers, for the new scaling certification from the Scrum Alliance that'll launch soon, for the facilitator workshop that's currently available through the Scrum Alliance. There are tons of supporting certifications to help you in your journey. So I guess what I'm trying to say is each person has a different way that they're going to apply many of these things. And no matter which certification you choose, you should decide, do I need one that is very role specific, or do I need one that is more general? Is certification important to my organization, or can I get a non-certified class that's private that gives us greater flexibility in the teaching materials and helps us really dive in the areas where we need the most assistance? In many of the certification programs, there's a lack of flexibility. The least flexible by far is Scaled Agile Framework. SAFe has a very doctrinal approach to these are the slides, this is the message, these are the instructors. If you have a heartbeat and a pulse and you can read through some slides, you can be a SAFe instructor. And that's not a dig to Dean and his organization. What I'm trying to say is they have lots of valuable content, but I think they've positioned it and packaged it in such a way that there's no flexibility. Even the examples and the stories and the things that you use, they're all predetermined before you ever walk into a classroom. So lack of flexibility galore. The next least flexible would be scrum.org. And once again, it's not because it's a bad certification. It's because they want consistency in the message that goes out. And I get it. And it does make sense that every instructor is using the same materials. Every instructor is teaching the same way. But at the same time, it doesn't afford that flexibility. I would argue that the reason why I chose the Scrum Alliance approach and the reason why I've stuck with it for so many years is because of the great flexibility. Now, with great power comes great responsibility, however. Every certified Scrum trainer can cover the key learning objectives for any of the courses that you're about to take in just a few hours. The difference with a Scrum Alliance certification is the filler that goes around those key objectives so that you can maximize your learning experience. It's the ability to really dig in and understand concepts and use examples that are relevant to you and do different varying exercises. I mean, even the course materials, the slides, the workbooks, the accompanying pictograms and things that you draw. Everything that you see is going to be almost completely different from trainer to trainer, which is quite amazing. But it's also going to be a great opportunity for you to expand your learning in a way that you may not have ever had before. Instructors for Scrum Alliance are heavily vetted, probably more vetted than any of the other certifications. And they only allow a certain type of individual with certain credibility and experiences, excuse me, to be able to teach that class. So what you're doing is you're trading the consistency for flexibility, for the ability for the instructor to share personal experiences and things that are going to help you along. The problem is not all trainers are cut from the same cloth. While the vetting process is very, very stringent, it doesn't mean that every instructor is going to approach things the same way. And there are some that are way better than others. The key to any certification, the key to understanding and valuing any certification is for you to really do your due diligence. Find out how many people has the instructor certified in that particular certification. What other companies have they worked with in a private setting, and are those in alignment with yours? How many classes do they have available, and what is their cancellation rate? How specific are they in staying to the topics at hand, or do they have some flexibility? Ask for recommendations, or better yet, look for public recommendations on places like LinkedIn, where you could see, any good instructor should have hundreds of recommendations out there. It should be easy for you to find those. Google, LinkedIn, lots of places. Don't be afraid to ask questions about the instructor specifically, and make sure that that instructor is a good fit for your organizational culture. All of these things are things that we should be doing, but instead, many organizations just look for the low price leader, and that's where they really fall short. What I can tell you, for example, is there are probably two-thirds of organizations that offer training and coaching for less than I do, but you get what you pay for. And I think that a lot of organizations slip and fall when they just base things on price and don't look at the big picture of what their organization is going to get and how it's going to lead them to be successful. So, does certification make sense? Absolutely. Is there a road or a path to take to get there? Absolutely. Anyone who's listening to this podcast that wants a free copy, I have an Agile Shirt slide deck that I'll be happy to send to you that walks you through and teaches you about how this impacts you if you're looking for a job, or what type of things you need to look for, what certification will match best, all the things that we discussed. I have an entire presentation I can send to you that goes into much, much more detail, and I'd love to pass that along to you. My goal is to help you be successful regardless of which certification you take. But if you do decide to come and take an AgileDad training certification, we would love to have you in class. We have world-class instructors, Hasfa, Jordan, myself. I can tell you, it doesn't matter which instructor you get. You're going to get a world-class presentation. And it's going to be something that's not only just the basics or the generals, but it's going to be something that's impactful, that leaves you thinking, wow, this really did make a difference. And I appreciate that I had the opportunity to take this class. That's going to do it. I hope that you gained a lot out of this. If you want to copy that presentation, you can shoot over an email to learn more at agiledad.com. We would love to get that presentation out to you. If you have a topic you want to discuss for a future episode, let us know there as well. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.